He thought he was taking his wife to dinner to teach her a lesson. Instead, he walked straight into his own downfall. Ethan mocked her clothes, her manners, her intelligence, even the way she spoke French. But every insult only brought him closer to the truth. His simple wife was Coraline Dubois, heiress to a legendary wine empire, fluent in 4 languages, and protected by a billionaire brother who already knew every secret Ethan tried to sell. This was not revenge. This was consequence.
3 years of marriage crumbled in 4 words. Just a naive girl. Julian spat them out like trash, standing in our city condo doorway. I gripped my spoon. The anniversary roast I spent hours cooking suddenly felt like waste. "Keep your cool. Don't fight," he paced, sneering at our china. Called it quaint, his favourite way to say I didn't belong. He sprawled into his chair, glued to his phone, hating my effort. He bragged about dinner with his boss and some woman named Veronica who acted like she owned the world. I tried to defend our meal, but he snapped. Demanded a trophy wife who spoke French and acted posh. The jab stung. I just took a steady breath. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. He told me my French was fake. Mocked me for being smarter than his director at that charity gala. He even kept me silent for days after I fixed his business deal. Dinner was bitter. I watched this man, my husband, who once looked at me with wonder and realized he was gone. He used to admire my brain. Now he called it unambitious. When he lost a promotion to a less qualified guy, I tried to empathize. He exploded, ranted about office politics and how I did not get the real world. He mimicked my voice like a cruel child, desperate to blame anyone but his own failures. That old advice of mine became his favorite weapon. He loved pretending my caution ruined his career. I only wanted to help, but he twisted it into an insult. He wanted a showpiece, not a partner who actually knew the business. His phone buzzed, and he turned deathly pale. He looked ghost white. That big account? Lost to a rival. The hatred in his eyes was pure poison. He tore into me, calling me dead weight and mocking my existence. He loved the cruelty. I stood my ground, finally finding my voice. This was not about dinner. This was his own pathetic failure talking. He sneered, calling me a burden because of my family money. That was it. I told him to leave, and when he hesitated, I threatened the police. The shock on his face was perfect. For once, he did not know how to handle a woman who wasn't begging for his approval. He backed down, but with one last nasty trick. He wanted to drag me to a high-end French spot tomorrow to humiliate me before the elite. He was so excited to put me in my place, he thought he could break me with public shame. I didn't flinch. My tone stayed ice cold. I asked him, "What if I just refused to play?" He practically bolted, eager to set his little trap. I did not cry. I cleaned up and felt a strange clarity. He wanted a lesson? Fine. I pulled my burner phone and called my brother, Alexander. I needed a professional. A real smile finally broke through. Time to show Julian who he was messing with. "Julian," I whispered. Voice steady. "It is time. Dinner at the Gilded Lily is tomorrow. He thinks he is taking a local girl to her first big night." A rich laugh filled the line. "Marcus runs that kitchen. He will love seeing you." "Should I come?" I watched the mirror fog. "Yes," I said, eyes cold. "Make an entrance. Tomorrow he learns where I belong. It will ruin him." I stayed awake all night planning. The pain had turned into something sharp. For a year, I had been shrinking for his tiny world. Now I was reclaiming the woman I used to be. My phone buzzed at 7. Sebastian. I ignored it. A text appeared. "Be ready at 6:30. Wear the blue dress from the sale, not the floral." I did not reply. That blue dress, a drab, shapeless thing he called respectable. It hung in my closet like a white flag. I walked past it, reaching deep into my wardrobe for a garment bag I had ignored for years. The scent of lavender hit me as I unzipped it. Inside was a simple black silk column, a gift from Julian for my 25th. Sebastian hated it, so I buried it. I spent the day in calm detachment, printing a copy of my passport under my maiden name, Clara Elise Sinclair, to tuck into my purse. Another buzz from Julian, all set. Table for 3 at 8:15. "Marcus says you have not aged a day. I will arrive at 8:30. Save me some snacks." Then, "Ready, my lioness?" I typed back. "Born ready. See you at the circus." The black silk felt like armor. I kept my hair simple, added deep wine lipstick, and finally felt like myself. At 6:28, the lock clicked. Sebastian walked in, scanning for flaws. His smug look snapped into shock. "What are you wearing?" he barked. "A dress," I said, grabbing my clutch. "That is not the one I picked." I met his gaze. "No, it is not." He scowled at the silk, clearly rattled that it did not belong in his world. He looked shaken. "Fine," he muttered. "Just act like you belong. The cab is waiting. Don't talk on the way. I need to prep you." The ride was suffocating. Sebastian held a mental note card like a lecture, drilling me on gourmet menu terms and bread etiquette. "Tear then butter," he snapped. I repeated it flatly. "And don't mention wine. I handle that. Just swirl, sniff, and nod. Don't ask for ketchup." I kept my face blank, listening to his frantic instructions while he tried to keep his panic under control. He was so terrified of looking foolish he became a caricature of the man he desperately wanted to be. I watched the city lights, thinking of my grandparents' kitchen in France and my life before Sebastian. A sharp sadness hit me, not for what was ending, but for the life I wasted trying to impress him. He never wanted a partner. He wanted a prop, and when I showed a spark, he tried to crush it. "The most important rule," Sebastian said, breaking my silence. "Do not speak French. That baby talk is embarrassing. Just speak English. Understood? Baby talk." He meant the phone calls where I laughed with my grandmother. He reduced my joy to something childish. "Understood," I said. He leaned back, satisfied that he had me caged. "Just smile and keep quiet." We pulled up to the venue, nothing but a small brass plaque. The door opened, and a doorman ushered us inside. Sebastian puffed his chest, gripping my back in a proprietary move I fought to ignore. The room smelled of starch and old money. The host, Gerald, glided over. "Name? Sebastian Moore," he announced too loudly. 8:00 for 2. Gerald checked his list, his smile tight. "Ah, yes, Mr. Moore, this way." He skipped the main room and marched us to a cramped corner by the kitchen. The table for people they wanted to insult. Sebastian, oblivious, looked proud. He thought he was the big shot, but the staff saw right through him. Sebastian pulled out my chair with a flourish, beaming. Gerald dropped menus and bowed away. Sebastian scanned the French text, panic flickering in his eyes. He recognized basic words but was completely lost. Confit. Encroute, he was drowning. I opened mine. It was like reading a story. I wanted the foie gras. "Just get the chicken," Sebastian muttered. It is hard to mess up. Suddenly, a server arrived with effortless grace. Marcus. I remembered him as a kid chasing his father through our family vineyards. Now he was a polished professional. Our eyes met, and a flicker of recognition passed between us before he masked it perfectly. "Good evening," he said, his accent a soft melody. "May I start you with a drink?" "We will have the house red," Sebastian snapped. Marcus smiled, though I saw the disappointment. If I may, he offered the better list. "The house red is fine." Sebastian cut him off, slamming his menu shut. "We are not trying to impress anyone, right, honey?" He patted my hand like a brand. I gave Marcus a tiny shake of my head. "Very well, monsieur," Marcus said, turning to leave. He paused, looking right at me. "Madame, that is a stunning dress. Vintage couture, late 80s. A smile touched my lips. "Merci, Marcus. You have a very trained eye. It is a gift from my brother." "You have a sharp eye, Marcus. It was a gift from my brother." His face lit up with a real, unguarded smile. "He has impeccable taste, as always." He nodded respectfully and walked away. The silence at our table was deafening. Sebastian leaned in, face turning a deep, angry red. "What was that?" he hissed. I sipped my water. "What was what? That babbling! I told you not to speak French." "I was just being polite," I said calmly. "Don't you dare correct me," he snarled. "You think you are clever, but you are still just a girl from a farm who got lucky." I looked at him, finally seeing the bitter, insecure stranger he really was. "You are right, Sebastian," I said softly. He leaned back, thinking he had won. I continued, "I am a girl from a farm that has been in my family for 200 years and produces some of the most sought-after grapes in Burgundy. The house red you ordered? That is bulk swill for people who do not know better." He sat frozen, mouth hanging open. "Your parents run a fruit stand in Napa," he stammered. I almost laughed. That was the cover story for privacy. "They do a bit more than that," I said. Bread arrived then, crusty baguette and rich brioche. Sebastian grabbed a piece, buttering it sloppily in his rage. Crumbs fell everywhere. I watched him, then slowly buttered my brioche. It tasted like freedom. All eyes were on us. Sebastian was fuming. "You are lying," he finally spat out. "You made this up to mess with me. It is pathetic. It is Clara," I said, voice cold. "Believe what you want. You always do." A waiter arrived with a bottle, not what Sebastian ordered. Marcus brought a vintage red. He set it before me, with the compliments of the house. 2015 from my family estate. Sebastian stared. "What is this?" I ordered the house wine. Marcus turned to him, his smile gone. "My apologies, sir. The sommelier decided this pairing suited the lady better." I swirled the wine, notes of dark cherry. Perfect. "It is magnificent. Marcus, thank the sommelier?" "Certainly, madame," he said, then turned to Sebastian. "For you, sir." He gestured to the cheap house wine. Sebastian stiffened as Marcus poured. The contrast was a joke, my deep ruby against his watery blend. Sebastian gulped his down. "It is fine," he grunted, eyes locked on my glass. He saw the reverence in my grip and realized the gap between us. The first course came. Sebastian got a basic salad. "I was served the foie gras. I did not order that," Sebastian barked. "Compliments of the house for madam," Marcus said smoothly. Sebastian was drowning. His script, the one where he was the mentor, was in shreds. I was getting the respect he craved. He ate in hateful silence. I savoured the foie gras, exquisite. Every bite reminded me of the life I once knew. I loved it, but I loved watching his confusion more. The restaurant vibe shifted, a new tension. The kitchen doors swung open. The manager looked frazzled. Sebastian leaned in, trying to regain control. "Look, stop this game. You are embarrassing us. Eat your chicken and drop the act. This is my world. You are just a guest." I looked past him. A man had walked in. Tall, confident, commanding. He wore a suit worth more than Sebastian Escar, like it was his own skin. He laughed, then scanned the room. His eyes locked onto mine. A brilliant smile lit up his face as he walked toward us. Sebastian turned, following my gaze. His face went pale. His fork clattered against the plate. "No," he whispered. "That is impossible." Julian Sinclair, the billionaire Sebastian had obsessed over for years, reached our table. He ignored the man gaping at him. He placed a hand on my shoulder and kissed my cheek. "Hello, little sister," Julian said, his voice warm. "Sorry I am late. The jet had trouble over the Atlantic." He sat down, glaring at my husband. His smile stayed, but his eyes turned cold. "You must be Sebastian," Julian said, reaching out a hand. "I have heard so much about you." Our table felt like the center of the world. Sebastian stared at his hand like a snake. His jaw locked. Panic hit as he darted between Julian and me. The realization sank in, the sterling legacy, the massive firm, the merger he had chased for months. My brother, Julian Sterling. Ethan stammered, wiping sweaty palms as he shook Julian's hand. "Sir, an honor. Clara, you never mentioned this. He was a complete mess." Julian pulled away, smile fixed, eyes cold. "Just call me Julian, and I hear you prefer Clara." He said it like a slur. "I have always called her Clarissa. A family name. It suits her, right?" Ethan nodded, looking punched. A waiter arrived with a drink for Julian, who ignored Ethan completely, so Julian said, taking a sip, 2015. "Excellent choice, one of our finest. You can taste the limestone, the struggle in the vines. It gives it character." He spoke as if Ethan were a ghost. "Better that way, don't you think?" "Much better," I agreed, my voice steady. I caught my brother's sigh. A signal. The game was on. Ethan watched the intimacy he could never grasp. He found his voice, high and tight. "Sir Julian, I am so sorry. I am shocked. Clarissa never mentioned her maiden name. Sterling, of course. The Sterling Vineyards." I just never connected it. He forced a laugh, but it was just a dry cough. "She is so modest, right?" Julian agreed, tone smooth. A Sterling through and through. We were raised to believe bragging is a sign of emptiness. He let that sting. "How would you know?" He leaned in. "So, you are at Kensington Partners? In acquisitions. How is that going?" This was the moment Ethan had prayed for. A link to the billionaire, whose firm was a titan in finance. His corporate mask slipped back into place. "A tremendous firm. We are growing. Actually, sir, we have been eager to approach Sterling Holdings. The synergy is immense. I have a proposal." Julian cut him off, voice flat. The one you sent my assistant 6 times? And then, strangely, to my private email? Ethan turned ghost white. I was just being thorough. The right desk was the one you came home to, Julian said, voice dangerous. My sister? Who you told a competitor had the business sense of a houseplant, it is fine. That is out of context, he stammered. A private joke. A joke you hoped would land you a position at Sterling Financial. Julian noted, cold as ice. He offered them insights gained from pillow talk with a wife you called simple. He sipped his wine. My security team is top tier, Ethan. They flag everything. Ethan shook, his collar suddenly too tight. He looked at me, pleading. Clarissa, honey, you have to believe me. I do believe you, Ethan, I said. Voice eerily calm. I believe that is exactly what you think of me. I have heard the houseplant line before. Usually I am just a country girl. I tilted my head. Funny? Because the country I am from produces wine that world leaders drink. The simple life you mocked paid for my Ivy League degree. Art history and finance, Julian added, clearly enjoying himself. Graduated with honours, but she kept it off her resume for your benefit. Right, Clarissa? You wanted a normal life. He said it with pity, which felt worse than hate. The main courses arrived. A waiter set the steak before Ethan, who ignored it. He set the chicken in front of me. My appetite vanished, replaced by cold focus. Why? Ethan croaked, eyes hollow. Why hide all of this? Was it a game? Testing me? It was not a game, Ethan, I said, pushing my plate away. It was a choice. I loved the man who loved me, not my status. I thought you were him. I was wrong. I stopped being me the moment I became an accessory to your ego. You mocked my heritage. You called my family simple farmers. You wanted a trophy wife to make you feel like a giant. When I proved to be an educated woman, you tried to break me. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a mirror and you hated the truth that finally stared back. The restaurant went dead silent. Waiters froze. Ethan's shame shifted into desperate, feral rage. He pointed wildly at Julian and me. This public scene is your revenge? You dragged me here, humiliated me, and brought in your rich brother to finish it? You spoiled brat. You ruined my life just because I didn't worship you. Julian moved before I could blink. He didn't rise, but his hand shot out, clamping onto Ethan's wrist. The iron grip silenced him. You are a guest in a place of respect. You are speaking to my sister. The only reason you aren't choking on your own teeth is because she asked for civility. My patience is gone. Ethan went limp, his knife clattering to the plate. Julian released him, wiping his hands on a napkin as if he had touched something filthy. Revenge? I asked, my voice ice. This is a consequence. This is you finally getting exactly what you asked for. I spoke in rapid French. Pierre? The food looks lovely, but my appetite is gone. Please pack it to go and bring me the check. Certainly, Madame Sterling, he bowed. I continued in English for maximum impact. And Pierre, send a bottle of the 2005 vintage to table 6. They are celebrating an anniversary, and it is my treat. Table 6 was a beaming older couple. The wife gasped, clutching her pearls as her husband thanked me. That single vintage cost more than my husband, Greg's annual bonus. It was a brutal display of status. Greg looked like he had been punched. He knew exactly what that bottle was. He had only read about it in his dreams, and I just served it like tap water. Greg gasped, You cannot be serious. It is my trust, I said quietly. Mine and my brother Leo S. I can do whatever I want. The bill arrived. I didn't even check the figure. I pulled a document from my bag and signed it with a flourish. Coraline Elise Vance. I slid it to Greg. It was no check. It was a copy of my real passport. Born in Monaco, not some farm in Kansas. You fell for a ghost, Greg. You have been resenting a phantom for years. Leo put a steady hand on my shoulder. Ready? I nodded. I looked at the man I had been married to for 3 years, now sitting among the ruins of his ego and our marriage. I felt zero triumph, just a cold, hollow relief. The divorce papers will reach your office by morning, I said. Do not bother going home. Your belongings are in storage. The gate code is your Mother S. birthday, a final mercy. I turned and walked away. Please, you cannot do this. I love you. I paused. Leo squeezed my shoulder. I didn't turn back. No, Greg, you loved the idea of a wife you could belittle. That version of me is gone. I stepped out into the crisp Chicago night, taking a deep, real breath. The restaurant was dead silent behind us. I didn't need to look. I could feel his pathetic gaze and the weight of every eye on my back. My heart pounded. This was the autopsy of my marriage, and I was holding the blade. We were at the exit when the spell finally broke. "Wait, please!" Greg S.'s voice was a panicked, raw shout. Chairs skidded. I heard the host whisper, "Sir?" "Please," but Greg stumbled after us, a napkin still in his hand. Leo stopped a protective anchor and turned with the grace of a king. I turned with him, blank-faced. Everyone was watching. Greg skidded to a stop, chest heaving. "Coraline," he gasped, ignoring Leo, "you cannot just walk out. This is insane. It is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, my voice steady. "Which part, Greg? The 3 years of putting me down? Or the part where you tried to sell my family as private data for a promotion?" The room went silent. Greg flinched. "I did not that email, Leo. You have to understand," he stammered, turning to my brother. "It was just professional posturing. Bragging." "I never actually you offered Vance Capital a unique backdoor into Vance Holdings," Leo cut in, his voice like a razor. "You wrote, and I quote, 'My wife is a Vance. She is too simple to grasp the business, but she chatters. I can feed you insights. You listed 3 of our confidential negotiations in Asia, details discussed only in our private boardroom. How did my simple sister get those, Greg?" Greg turned white. He looked at me, and the reality finally hit. The nights he came home complaining about his job, I had listened, I had poured tea, I had asked subtle questions the same way I would assess a risky investment. He had dismissed my questions as naive, then stolen my insights to impress his bosses. He thought I was too dim to catch him stealing my work. "You set me up," he hissed. "I protected my family," I replied, stone cold. "I recorded every word, one-party consent, Greg. It is perfectly legal. I have hours of you leaking secrets." I handed it to Leo months ago. "Months?" he choked out. Leo offered a sharp predator grin. "We have been watching you for months, Greg, waiting. My sister gave you loyalty you never earned, and you treated her like dirt." Greg swayed. This was the end of his career, and knowing I had been baiting him, the ultimate humiliation. "You have no proof," Greg stammered. "Just a bitter wife." Leo sighed and hit play on his phone. Greg's voice filled the room. "Useless. That strategy I pitched? They loved it." Thompson looked totally beaten. "I was the smartest guy in the building, and you know why? It was her dumb questions that started it. Like a monkey on a typewriter, she stumbles onto things." My voice played back. "I am glad it helped. But are you sure about that structure?" Greg S.'s voice dripped with contempt. "Oh, save it! You read one article and think you are a guru? Just make the coffee." Leo stopped the recording. The silence was heavy. Everyone in the bistro stared at Greg. "There are dozens more," Leo said. "Some are tragic. Others, like your leaked land deals, are criminal." Greg's bravado shattered. "What do you want?" he begged, his voice cracking. "Money! I have nothing." "Please, Coraline. Remember the summer in Maine? The cabin! You were happy!" He was scavenging for pity. That memory was a sharp jab, but the pain didn't own me anymore. "I was happy," I said, my voice heavy. "I loved the man I thought you were. You killed him, Greg. You drowned him in spite. The man standing here? I do not know him, and I do not want to." I pulled a second legal envelope from my bag. He stared at it like a live grenade. "This is the divorce filing," I said. "My lawyer has it. You will be served tomorrow at Vance Holdings. Do not make a scene. Sign the papers quietly, or I will ensure the whole city knows exactly who you are." His hands shook as he took the documents. "As for what we want," Leo added, "we want you gone. The condo is in my trust. You leave tonight. Your things go to storage." Leo stepped closer. "You will sign these granting full dissolution and a restraining order. No contesting. No contact. You resign from Vance by Friday." "Resign?" Greg squeaked. "But my career. I have nothing without it. You should have thought of that before you tried to sell my family secrets and spent years tearing my sister down," Leo said in a lethal whisper. "Resign quietly, and we will not pursue you for corporate espionage. We will not leak these recordings. You will be a nobody who faded away. That is our mercy. Quit and be broke, or fight and have your name destroyed forever." Tears welled in Greg's eyes. "Coraline, please. I am sorry. I was an idiot. Let us try counseling." "I loved you once, Greg," I said. You used that love as a weapon. There is no saving this marriage. I left. Leo steered me out, and the host gave a respectful nod. Greg begged behind us, a hollow, pathetic sound. We ignored it, pushing through into the cool Chicago night. A town car waited. Once inside, the leather felt cold. Leo shut the door, and we sat in silence as I put my old life in the rearview mirror. The adrenaline crashed, leaving me exhausted. "You were magnificent," Leo whispered. A single hot tear tracked down my cheek. Then another. It was just the release of 3 years of lies. "He never loved me," I whispered. "Not really." Leo was quiet. He loved owning a trophy wife. When you turned out to be brilliant, it broke his fragile ego. He could not own you, so he tried to break you. A small man's only move. I leaned my head against the cold glass. "I feel empty." "Good," Leo said. "That gives you room to fill up with the right things." "Where to?" "The penthouse," he said. "It is yours." "The cleaners will be there next week. For now, it is just us. I have a vintage wine and some ice cream waiting." The comfort broke my tension. "You planned all of this?" He shrugged. "I just built the stage. You performed the masterpiece." "Philippe was thrilled to see you." I replayed Philippe's icy politeness. The wine was the perfect sting, a reminder of what Greg had thrown away. Leo looked grim. "My attorney is coming at 10. He gets served at noon. His things will be gone by morning." I called Martin Vance during dinner, an old friend. He was appalled by his employee's conduct. Greg's resignation will be processed before he even tries to quit. Access is already cut. We pulled up to the tower. As we walked through the lobby, I felt the staff watching. They saw a Du Bois and his sister, untouchable. I kept my head high. The country girl was dead. Coraline Du Bois was finally home. The elevator rose, and for the first time I tasted real freedom. I slept for 10 hours in luxury. Sunlight hit the floor when I woke. Then it hit the restaurant, the recording, the divorce. A wave of relief washed over me. The world would know by today. My main phone was a dead brick. My encrypted device had pings. Coffee in the kitchen. "Samantha arrives at 10. Be kind to yourself." And one from my old home line. Greg had called 12 times. I deleted them all. The kitchen was perfect. I poured coffee and looked out at Lake Michigan. I answered, "How are you?" Like I was hit by a truck, but I am standing. "Good. The footage from last night is out." I tensed. "What footage?" "The audio. Him calling you a monkey at a typewriter." "It is viral. Chicago finance blogs are everywhere. The hashtag typewritergate is trending." My stomach turned. This was not what I wanted. "I know," Leo said. "A junior editor caught it. His name and the Du Bois connection, it is a feast for the gossips." "Is it bad?" "For him, it is catastrophic. People call it a lesson in class. For you, the tone is different. Coraline Du Bois is a silent queen. Revenge is living well. There is already a fan account with 10,000 followers. I buried my face in my hands. A fan account? My misery was public entertainment. Samantha will handle the PR, but stay silent. Let the story burn. I opened the laptop. The article was savage. Comments were a torrent of mockery. They photoshopped his face onto a wine bottle. A shameful part of me loved it. I closed my laptop. At 10, the buzzer cut through the quiet. Samantha arrived sharp, icy, and ready. She dropped a leather folder on my desk. "Coraline," she started, "all business. I saw the headlines. Let's fix this mess." She laid out the paperwork. "Security is removing him now. Between the family name and our evidence, the judge will sign that order immediately. 500 feet. No contact." She slid the settlement toward me. "It is simple. You keep your assets. He takes his bags and the pocket change in his account. He eats the debt." "And the gag order?" I asked. She tapped a document. "We are dropping the criminal charges for his leaks. He signs this and never utters your name again. Any slip-up triggers a massive lawsuit and public release of all recordings. It is bulletproof. Will he sign?" Samantha offered a thin smile. "He has no choice." The intercom buzzed. "It is Julian." "Should I call security?" Samantha and I exchanged a look. She spoke into the speaker. "This is her counsel. Do not let him inside. If he stays, call the police." I stared at my cold coffee. "He was here. He will try to reach you," Samantha warned. "Burner phones, burner emails, be a black hole. Silence is your best weapon." Minutes later, my old phone lit up. Texts. "Sarah, please. Miller fired me. Everyone saw it. My phone is blowing up. Where are you? The key won't work. Your brother is packing my things. I am sorry. Really. You win, fine. Just tell me what to do. Stop ignoring me. This is your fault. Your stuck-up family set me up. The messages flooded in, shifting from begging to pure rage. I watched the screen a live breakdown. I screenshotted the final threat and sent it to Sarah, then blocked him. Good, she said, checking her device. That is a violation. It makes the restraining order easier. She studied me. This is the hardest part, sitting in the wreckage. He will get worse before he vanishes. And he did. That night, the buzzer rang again. It was the front desk. Miss Vane, sorry to disturb you. Mr. Hayes is in the alley. He snuck past the dock. He says he will not leave. We have him trapped. Police are on the way. Fear spiked, then hot anger. He was invading my peace. Sarah S.'s voice rang in my head. Be a black hole. I stayed put. Call the cops, David. Get him out. He is resisting, so press charges. I checked the service gate feed. There he was. Julian, tie crooked, hair a total wreck. He was squaring off with 2 guards, screaming. He looked small, diminished. Like a washed-out photo. The high-rolling hedge fund guy was gone, just a man realizing his status had evaporated. My chest tightened as police arrived. 2 officers moved in. Julian panicked, pointing at my balcony. They shook their heads. One grabbed his arm, and Julian fought back, pathetic. They marched him to the cruiser, not in cuffs, but clearly not free. The next morning, my lawyer, Elena, called. He signed. A public defender at the station saw our mountain of evidence and told him to sign to save his career. It is over. The silence after the chaos was heavy. Restraining order granted. Divorce is final in 2 months, but we are done. He is gone. Elena, I should have felt relieved, but I felt hollow. The war ended, and I was standing in the ruins. There is one more thing, Elena said, her voice careful. He is asking for a final meeting through his lawyer. He says he needs closure. I advise against it. There is nothing to gain. I knew she was right. But a ghost of my past whispered a dangerous idea. Maybe I need closure too, to say what I held back at that dinner. To see him not as a monster, but as a broken man, and say goodbye. Make it happen, I said. But keep it public with security nearby. Coraline, please. Elena, I need this. We met in a quiet office 2 days later. Julian was there with an exhausted public defender. He looked ruined. Aged 5 years in 3 days. Suit rumpled. Eyes bloodshot. When I walked in, he flinched. The lawyers set the rules. This was for talking only. No deals were changing. Any harassment, and he is done. We sat staring at each other across the mahogany table. You look well, he said, voice raspy. Thank you. A long, long silence stretched out. He played with a paperclip. I am at a cheap motel near the airport. My stuff is in storage unit 417. The code is my Mom's birthday. You remembered? I did. Why? He asked, suddenly desperate. Why the charity after everything? Because being cruel is not who I am, I said. Even to you. He nodded, swallowing hard. The video is everywhere. I cannot find work, not in finance. My friends have ghosted me. My mother says I shamed the family. He let out a broken laugh. As if we had any reputation left. I said nothing, no absolution. I loved you, you know, he said, eyes shining. In my own way, I was just so angry. At the partners, at everyone. I took it out on you. It was not fair. No, I agreed. It was not. I am sorry. The words were raw. They sounded almost real. For all of it. For the insults. For not really seeing you. For being a coward. I believed he was sorry. Sorry he got caught. Sorry he lost his lifestyle. Sorry his world collapsed. But was he sorry for the cruelty? I doubted it. I have something for you, I said. I slid a manila folder across the table. He opened it carefully. Not a legal document, just a list. 24 lines with dates and direct quotes. June 14th. Don't try to understand the market report. It is not like balancing a checkbook. August 3rd. That dress makes you look like you are heading to a church picnic. Do you own anything not in gingham? October 22nd. Just be quiet and look pretty. It is what you are good at. January 15th. My boss wife has real opinions. You just have moods. On and on. 24 instances of contempt over 14 months. I pulled them from the recordings, a ledger of our marriage failure. His face went white. His hands shook. What is this? That is the why, Julian. My voice stayed steady. That is what you did. That is who you became. I did not leave because you failed. I left because you were cruel. I stayed because I loved you. You exploited that because you were weak. Love should never feel like a prison. He stared at the list, jaw slack. Hearing whispers in a cafe was one thing. Seeing his cruelty in cold, chronological order was another. I did not realize, he stammered. You did not want to, I corrected. You needed me small so you could feel tall. A real partner lifts you up. They do not stand on you. He had no answer. His lawyer would not look at us. I loved the man you were, I said, rising. My goodbye! I pity the man you are now. I hope you change, but it is not my problem. We are done. I wish you no harm, but I wish you nothing. I turned to the door. Sarah followed. Coraline, he called out. His voice was raw. I kept walking. Who are you? He asked, echoing the cafe. But the rage was gone, just hollow space left. I glanced back at the wreck in his cheap suit and gave him a sad, small smile. I am the woman you married, Julian. You just never bothered to look. I walked out, leaving him with his wreckage and the truth of why it all collapsed. The void inside me was not so empty anymore. It was filling up with a quiet, steady light. My lesson was finished. My real life was finally starting. 3 months later, the air in Napa Valley held a new kind of warmth. Not that heavy Chicago humidity, but a crisp, golden glow that smelled of sun-baked earth, vines, and wild rosemary. It felt like coming home. I stood on a stone terrace overlooking the sloping vineyards of my new life. A tiny microphone was tucked into my hair. Below, 100 industry titans, mingled critics, buyers, press all hooked on my comeback. Our brand Valor was finally live. I wore a simple linen dress, skin sun-kissed, hair loose. I felt like me. Not a wife, not a victim. A vintner. A reporter leaned in. Miss Thorne, the Valor label is a bold change for a house known for classic reds. What inspired it? I smiled. It is about feminine strength, complexity mistaken for fragility. The lioness is the hunter and the heart of the pride. This wine, I gestured to the glass, is a blend. Grenache for fire, Syrah for spice, anchored by our oldest Pinot Noir, Pauwegits. She pressed about the comeback narrative. I kept my gaze steady. The wine speaks for itself. My private life is private. I am here for the future, not the past. She nodded, scribbling notes. I had mastered the art of facing the scandal without letting it crush me. The rumours had faded, replaced by intrigue over the heiress reclaiming her throne. I used that buzz to drive interest, then shifted to the product. My PR coach had been brutal. Across the terrace, I saw Marcus chatting with a Tokyo buyer. He gave me a thumbs up, my rock. A new intern, Chloe, passed by with trays. She was shy, but she could identify rare grapes just by touch. She was a wreck an hour ago, but I taught her to let the craft speak. She was thriving now. My phone buzzed. I stepped toward the vines. A text from an unknown Chicago number. Coraline, I am using a friend's phone. I saw the news. You look happy, like you belong. I am in Phoenix now, selling industrial cooling units. It is a job. The divorce is final. I will not bother you again. I am sorry for everything, not because I lost, but because you deserved better. Be happy, E. I stared at the screen. No demands, no pity, just accountability. It was the first honest thing he had ever said. I blocked the number. Closure is not a conversation. It is a quiet click in your own heart. Alex appeared beside me with water. Thinking? I pocketed the phone. It is a brilliant day. Pre-orders are at double our goal. They buy the story, but the wine brings them back. That was the plan. Transcend the noise. It is time, Alex said, his eyes bright. You ready? I took a deep breath, the scent of the vineyard filling my lungs. Ready. We walked to the podium. Alex tapped the mic, and the crowd went silent. Cameras flashed. Friends, thank you for celebrating this new chapter for Thorne Estates. Alex spoke with authority. For generations, our family has known that great wine is more than a drink. It is a story of a place and the people behind it. Today we add a new voice. He turned to me, pride in his eyes. Many of you followed my sister's recent journey. You saw her resilience. What you may not know is that Coraline has been our secret weapon for years. Her palate is elite. Her vision sparked the new Valor label. She is not just returning home, she's claiming her birthright. He paused. Effective now, I am thrilled to name Sienna Vance our new co-chief executive, leading brand strategy and hospitality. Applause broke out. This was not a pity move. They knew the business. They saw the plan. Alex handed me the mic. I scanned the crowd, spotting partners for the future I was building. Thank you, Alex, and thank you all. I started, my voice steady. Vance Estates has always been about roots and wings, blending the land's history with creative heights. My vision links fine wine to the art world, telling stories as deep on canvas as they are in the glass. I unveiled our first move, a limited bottle series with a local sculptor, a ballet-themed tasting, and an artist residency right here. It felt bold. I caught a spark in the critic's eyes. As I finished, I noticed Maya in the back, holding an empty tray with genuine wonder. I saw my younger self in her, capable but doubting her place. Grant's voice echoed in my head. Just a small-town girl. I looked at Maya and saw potential, not limits. Her grind was her power. The party swirled around us. I was in my element, talking vintages and body. As the sun hit the horizon, turning the sky violet, I found a quiet spot near the old oak. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa Hart, the wife of Grant's former boss, the woman he used to call the perfect socialite. Sienna, hope this message is okay. Congrats on today. I have followed the news. What you are building is incredible. I also need to apologize. A year ago, Grant was at lunch and made cruel remarks about you. Your clothes, your style. I laughed along. I thought it was just petty gossip. I did not know. I am so sorry I stayed silent. What you did, walking away, it is inspiring. Best wishes, Vanessa. I read it twice. The apology mattered. It owned the silent complicity that let Grant's cruelty fester. I typed back. Vanessa, thank you. No apology needed. We all survive these things as best we can. I am happy to be on the other side. Let us have coffee when you are in the valley. I would love to hear about your charity work. Best, Sienna. It was a bridge. People talk. Kindness is a currency that never loses value. As twilight hit, guests left. I kicked off my heels and walked barefoot onto the cool, damp earth of my vineyard. Soil between my toes. This was my real office now. My phone buzzed. A text from Julian, an accountant whose grammar I once fixed at a party years ago. Clara saw the news. You are a legend. I know this is random, but after you left, I got a $15,000 check. My mother's surgery. I know it was you. The facility said it came from the Vance Trust. I was too proud to ask then, and everything fell apart with my husband. Thank you. You saved her life. I owe you everything. I smiled to myself. I had almost forgotten. It was 2 years ago. Julian had mentioned his mum needed a procedure that insurance would not cover. I caught the fear in his voice and called my trust manager the next morning. It was pocket change for the fund, but it was everything to him. I made them keep it quiet. It was about helping someone in pain. I typed back, Julian, so glad she is okay. You owe me nothing. Just buy a bottle of my reserve when it launches. Take care. His reply hit instantly, a whole case. And Clara, kindness suits you better than any of us. I tucked the phone away and watched the stars appear in the violet sky. My past felt like a distant place I rarely visit. My life was here now, in these vines. A soft voice interrupted. Miss Vance, I turned. It was Chloe holding my shoes. You left these. Thanks, Chloe, and please, just call me Clara. I took them. You did a great job today. Really? She blushed, staring at the dirt. Thanks. It was wild. So many high-profile guests. They are just people, I said gently. Most are just better at hiding their nerves. Your notes on the soil in Sector 7 impressed the foreman. He said that matters more than impressing a food critic. She looked up, eyes bright. Really? Truly? This is your world too, Chloe. Never let anyone make you feel like an outsider where you belong. The advice felt like a vow to her and my younger self. She stood taller. I won't. Thanks, Clara. As she walked toward the winery, her phone rang. She answered, her voice shy but steady. Yes, Mom, it was beautiful. Her French was a bit shaky, but it was brave. It was her claiming her own space. I stood in the dark vineyard, the owner of a legacy I finally accepted, listening to another woman find her strength. The lioness was home, and her power was not a roar of anger, but the steady growth of vines under a vast sky. The future finally tasted sweet.